Hello, welcome back to my channel. Um, so it is Monday, May 8th. It's a beautiful day out, gorgeous morning, very clear, very cool, sunny and bright. Yesterday was Mother's Day, and well, my day yesterday did not end the way I would ever want it to end or expected it to end. Well, I say expected, but what happened was kind of expected. At some point. So there's a video series I've been meaning to make for quite a while now. And I've taken a little bit of footage here and there, but I just haven't gotten it, on my calendar to get it done. And that was just a little Meet the Fam kind of video series where I could introduce all the animals that I live with, my animals, not the ones that I care for in my business. And I just haven't gotten around to it. Hasn't been a high priority for me for whatever reason. Well, today I'm going to introduce you posthumously. So there, I didn't bury the lead, to one of my buddies. Yesterday, well, let me back up. The week before, I had to take my cat Ozzy, and Ozzy has been with me for 15 years, and I'll tell you his origin stories in a minute here. But he was getting elderly, and I have an excellent vet here in Chattanooga who specializes only in cats. So all my cats go to her. And because of his advanced age, I take him and Leche to see her every 6 months, because as they're getting older, they're having more and more health issues and things. So the week before last was his 6-month old man checkup. And at that checkup, they discovered that he had she called a galloping heart rate rather than a normal heart rate. And that just means instead of a lub-dub, lub-dub, lub-dub heart rate that is a normal heart rate, his heart rate was like brum, 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 kind of thing. And she said it would result in thickening of the heart tissues, and it could also lead to blood clots. And the most common kind of blood clot that this causes is what they call a saddle clot, where the heart throws a blood clot and it goes through the aorta and it gets lodged where the aorta splits into the two femoral arteries right at the saddle, the back hip area of a cat, flank area sort of. And she said, when it happens, he will be paralyzed and there really won't be much we can do. But she said it could happen soon or it could happen, sometime in the future. Just keep him quiet, keep him happy. He also might show signs of kind of congestive heart failure kind of things, get hard to breathe, exercise intolerance, which he didn't do a whole lot of exercising, not a lot of running around from him anyway. So I was glad that I knew what to watch for and to be prepared. It did prepare me. And then since then, he has been very cuddly. He was very attentive to me. He I think the day after the vets, he was sleeping on my lap, he's not normally much of a lap cat. And I could feel his little heart just pounding in his little chest as he slept on my lap. So he was sleeping and I could still feel it really pounding. And I was like, oh yeah, this doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel right. And the night before last, he slept right on top of me. Actually, I went away the weekend prior. Ever since I came home, he's been just sleeping on top of me, curled up next to me. And again, that's not his normal behavior. So I knew he knew that his days were numbered. And last night, before I go to bed, my routine with the cats is that dog gets put to bed for the night. And then the cats all get a can of their wet cat food. That is their favorite food. And everybody gets their own can and their own dish. And normally he's the one to come and tell me that it's time to go to bed and time to feed him. And he didn't. But the other two were out, so I got them all ready. And I'm like, did Ozzy go out, get outside? Because sometimes he'll run out in the backyard. I'm letting Cass out, the dog out, and but he usually comes right back within a few minutes. He doesn't wander very far. He just wants to go sit in the sun, and he's been doing that a lot lately. And I know that that's one of his little pleasures in life. So I've been allowing it since I noticed that he doesn't really leave the porch, or if I let him out the back door, there's a little retaining wall, and he will just sit in the sun on the retaining wall. So if he's not out wandering in the woods or going out in the street, I figured he was enjoying what ended up being his last days. So I looked outside. He wasn't outside. It was getting dark, or it was dark. So I was a little worried. And then I went in the bedroom, started preparing for bed. Thought, well, I'm going to read for a while. I'll listen for him. He'll come to the door if he's outside. Well, as soon as I got in the bedroom, I heard him meowing. And I'm like, is he outside, or is he shut in the closet? He was under the bed. And I got down on my belly, and he was staring at me with these saucer eyes, and I could tell he couldn't move. And I pulled him out from under the bed, and he was paralyzed from, like, I guess if a cat had a waist, from the waist down. So thankfully I knew. I didn't go into panic mode because I knew what had happened, because the vet had told me that this could potentially happen. So I got the cat crate, took him to the emergency vet, and said goodbye. Was able to hold him right up to the very end. And then I came home, and these two cats were being very affectionate and also confused. He and Lilith have kind of had a very delicate relationship since she joined the family 2 years ago, and there have been a couple cat fights between the two of them. She was very curious. She was all over the bedroom last night, and she doesn't normally come in the bedroom at night because he's usually in there. Leche, of course, was his usual. He always sleeps with me every night. But let me just tell you real quickly Ozzy's origin stories. In 2007, I turned 40 years old. We had Leche and his brother Latte, the Milk Brothers, two big white cats. They were, well, let's see, they're 18 now. They were 3 or 4 years old at the time. Well, they are not 18. Latte did not. We lost Latte a number of years ago. I went to an event, and in the lobby of this event, there was a rescue organization with cats. It was March, late February, early March, right before my 40th birthday, and they had all these cats and kittens, and they had a pure black cat, polydactyl cat, there for adoption. I love black cats, and I used to have our very first cat was a polydactyl cat, and I put my name down to adopt him. I went home, talked to the family, and said, this is what I want for my birthday. Went back, or called them, made an appointment to come back and adopt this cat. Went back, and as I walked into the event where the cats were being adopted, there was a young couple with my cat in their arms, and they were signing the adoption papers. I guess when they came in and they wanted to adopt, they saw this cat in the cage. When they were asked if they were the ones who reserved, to adopt this cat, they just said yes. They weren't. I was. I wasn't going to go over and snatch this cat out of their arms and say, no, that was my cat. But I was there right at the time they told me to come to adopt him, and I was disappointed. But there was another cat, wasn't black, wasn't polydactyl, was a long-haired tiger cat, which we had also had previously, and a few years before that. He was elderly and had to put down. This was a little female cat. Her name was Tallulah, and she was the sweetest little thing. So I adopted her instead and brought her home, and she was so sweet. But that was the spring we put in a pool, and we had neighbor kids over all the time. We had neighbor parties over that spring. The weather was nice. And Memorial Day weekend, we had a bunch of neighbor friends over, and the kids let Tallulah out of the house. And she didn't come home. We never actually found her. But in that neighborhood, we had a lot of coyotes and a lot of fox. So, and that was breeding season, puppy season, kit season. So I'm assuming she became a meal. I never found any sign of her after that night. Very heartbroken. But I was like, well, I guess she just wasn't, it wasn't meant for me to gab a cat for my 40th birthday. So summer passes, life goes on, and then Halloween time comes around, and I see an ad in the paper. I guess 15 years ago, we still had papers with classified ads in them. The internet did exist. Don't let anybody tell you it didn't. It did. But that's not how I found Ozzy. There was a ad in there that there was a woman who had rescued a litter of kittens, and the mother from a barn was being torn down, and she had these kittens. So we went over on Saturday or Sunday afternoon, and he picked me, as all familiars do. And my daughter fell in love with this little black and white kind of Holstein, so we call them Holstein kitty cows. But this one, he was mine. He was all pure black with just a little white tuft on his chest. And I was like, well, the first black cat that I wanted to adopt wasn't meant to be mine, but this one, is come. That was 15 years ago. Well, almost 15 years ago, Halloween. And he's been mine ever since. He has never attached himself to another human being. He's friendly enough to other people at times, but he's always just been my cat. And I'm going to miss him. Like I said, he and Lilith have had their run-ins, their scraps. But he used to get kidney stones like me. And so I did, but that hasn't been a problem in a while. But when he would get his urinary infections or stones, he would pee in the bathroom sink to let me know, so I would see it. And yeah, we've been through quite a bit in 15 years, but I guess this next adventure that I'm going on, he just wasn't up for another change. He's moved with me from Illinois to Tennessee, from our marriage house to this house, and I guess he just didn't have it in him to keep going. Wanted to give me a little more freedom. And but like I said, I know in hindsight, I can tell he knew his days were numbered, and he was letting me know that he loved me. And also the timing was amazing in a way. I mean, having to have your animal put to sleep on a Sunday night is never the best timing, because you have to go to the emergency vet, pay extra, and deal with the stress of going to a place he's not used to. But they were wonderful there, and I luckily they were not busy that night, so I was able to get in and out pretty quickly, and they allowed me to have as much time as I needed. But the previous weekend I was out of town Thursday through Sunday, and had a pet sitter coming in twice a day. How terrible as a pet sitter myself would it have been if she had showed up. She might not have even gone looking for him under the bed, because he doesn't come out all the time. He does most of the time, but cats are funny. So she might not have even noticed unless she heard him crying, which I did hear him crying. But then she would have had to deal with that, or I would have had to rush home from my weekend and taken care of it while he suffered until I got here. So, and then later in the month, in like a week and a half, I'm going to Michigan. And then the weekend, Memorial Day weekend, I was planning to go to my new house in Selma and spend the weekend getting it cleaned up and ready to move in. I don't know if the video is picking up that sound, but Cass has been groaning for the last 2 days. I don't know what you're doing over there, buddy boy. You're making an awful lot of noise. Oh. And now the neighbor dog is howling. What's going on around here? But so anyway, this was the weekend. I wasn't particularly busy with clients, and I was home all weekend. So I was here with him, and I was able to be with him and be the one to make the decision and hold him in his last moments. So thank the universe, and I thank Ozzy for that. So that's all I have. I kind of want to howl with him. Ow! Anyhow. So I have 3 more animals to share with you, and over the next few days I'm going to try to do that because Leche is not going to move to Selma with me either. He is going to stay here in Chattanooga with his rightful owner, my daughter, Emma. He's been her cat since second grade. She was in second grade. And she doesn't want me to take him. He's getting very old. And she doesn't want me to take him away and have not be with him for his last moments because it's inevitable. It happens. And I understand that. But man, am I going to miss him. So I'll introduce you to him. I need to introduce you to Castiel. Heaven's missing an angel because he's 13 and he's been having some health issues and acting. If you haven't had as many dogs and cats as I have over as many years as I have, and you've seen them until their last days, you know when things shift. When they go from being a kitten or a puppy to a good adult animal. When the shift happens from when they're that good adult animal to when they're that elderly animal. And then there's one last little shift. Sometimes it's very subtle. Labs are great at hiding this shift. So when you do notice it in a dog like a lab, you know it's there, it's real. That you know it's their last period of time with you. And he's starting to show those shifts. So I know this wasn't a very fun, happy, joyous video. But that is the way life is. Life is not always new kittens and puppies, walks in the sunshine, and naps with your best friend. It's all those things, and then it's having to say goodbye. So that's where I am. Rest in peace, Ozzy Von Dingle-Berry, Prince of Darkness. You are a good cat, and I loved you. Peace out.